Yo, so I was just talking about the aura in the last video and spitball, rapid cannon fire kind of situation. So some things eluded me. But one of the main reasons that I'm fascinated with the aura is we understand so much when it comes to quantum physics, energy science. The Russians really looked into this. The U.S. military's really looked into this. CIA has documents literally proving manifestation is real. So we're not in the era of trying to convince you in any way anymore. We're in the area just reffing and telling you what the fuck's going down. Energy's real. There's implications that happen that seem subtle right now. Literally, you can't really see what's circulating, but in the very famous idea of the law of backlash, what you put out comes back. The law of affinity, what you put out comes back, and it comes back with friends. Associated energies, energy of peace and stillness invites very different energies than chaos, than anger. Anger doesn't necessarily invite soothing, calm energy to come into you, soothing, calm environment stuff. We understand when you leave the house in a hurry and then all of a sudden everything's against you. You're running into every red light. You pick the slow line at the grocery store. People have these experiences and they don't honor them as relevant and worthy of being studied and reverse engineered. How do I avoid that? Oh, I have to avoid allowing certain thoughts, allowing certain things to take up residence in me and be fed. It's a diet. So, what I'm trying to get at here is the aura. Let's create a little boundary around me, what's in my aura. And again, it's subtle, it's gradient. You can't just say that's when it begins, it ends, it extends extensively. It's the totality, let's say, um, the the code in which you talk to the universe. And if the universe responds to your emanations and you're trying to fool the universe, the aura is the key, the window into what's actually happening, what's actually contained in your energy, and how is that energy talking to the universe. And if we live in a reflective universe, which the ancients across all the continents emphasize, which modern science has more than emphasized and proven, what are we going to do about it? So we have to develop a better aura. And the main ways to develop a better aura is literally the transformation of our character. We have a temperament, and everyone has a temperament, and it varies across people. We're born a certain way, and we have natural character qualities. Some people are more wired, more aggressive and Martian, we're calling them. Great athletes, great soldiers, even. High level of agency, high level of vigor. For instance, many different types of temperament. Some people are very logical. Some people are very soft and compassionate, empathetic, all that sort of stuff. And there's all these things that we have that are great. They fill our aura naturally with good energy. They're good qualities to be born with. But then there's a lot of things that we don't want. Do we want to be lazy? Do we want to be dismissive and disrespectful? Do we want to think we're the shit? High Martian quality where we think we can bulldoze people. Certain things like that. Um, there's toxicity, there's addictions, there's, gotta purge my demons, as people say. Well, why do we say that? It's because these are forces that are almost overriding our goodwill. We know we're not supposed to be doing stuff, and yet we do it. And that is the quest to develop better character. And so this single thing alone is everything because people are like, oh, to build a better aura, let's meditate on it. And say you meditate on good purple energy, and purple energy is known for this. Well, what happens when your very temperament is counterproductive for that state to be uh, well lived, long lived, and your very temperament, and then how you've been conditioned in your lifetime, accidentally or consciously? School consciously conditioned you, but then the social scene of school subconsciously conditioned you, and now your natural action that is reactive and subconscious is fighting the very state that you're attempting to cultivate. So we have to be extremely mindful. And this is the shitty part of self-development, is it takes willpower, moment after moment after moment. It takes lacking lapses of information to stay conscientious. And how do we get there? We get there through wisdom, we get there through systems and efficiency. Rather than acting and acting and acting, we want to eventually be something. We want to not think about it. We want to become that thing. So our character changes, and our character is so supported. Our subconscious neural network, myelination stuff that's going on. Myelination is the neural network that fires the fastest, will be the action that is subconsciously chosen when you're not thinking about it. And it takes a lot of energy to think and act a certain way. Saps the prefrontal of glucose. It's a very glucose heavy part of our brain, which is a glucose heavy part of our body. Again, the body doesn't want to stay active and conscientious always. It wants to go into subconsciousness. It wants to flow. So to get into a flow that actually supports us, it comes down to resource management. And that means rather than waking up early as a fight because you went to bed at a not decent time for years, you want to spend harder spent energy. That's more of a fight, that's more of a striving, more of an active override to start to get grace developed. And when we're talking about grace, we're talking about metabolic efficiency, we're talking about hormonal health, we're talking about alpha brainwaves. And why are we talking about that? Is because there's certain states in the body that will have you wake up energized, that will have you in a flow state easier, that will have you have more vitality and enthusiasm. So you don't have to try to be enthusiastic. You don't have to try. Your body's vital resources are high enough to where you say, I want to do that. The body feels ready to do it. The mind feels lucid and brilliant. The heart feels enthused. The will feels vital and strong and courageous, and you do it. But to get there, you have to start to find all the energy sucks that you're spending on actually compromising your values. And it's not just your values as in, oh, I think that's a valuable thing and I want to, this is the character quality that I want. It's actually also your energy. I don't want to compromise my energy. So rather than working hard to wake up at an early time, I spend harder fought energy to force myself not to scroll, to force myself to start a parasympathetic wind down period around maybe 5 o'clock. So by the time 9 o'clock hits, my body is ready to sleep. And I do that over the course of weeks. As boring and annoying as it is, as much as my body seeks dopamine, watching stuff, scrolling, watching TV, doing stuff that is counterintuitive to this grace we're trying to create, we're spending a harder amount of energy to create energy that works for us. That's what we're saying here. And it goes back to diet. Can you meal prep, bro? Can you meal prep? So again, back to glucose efficiency, metabolic efficiency. We don't want your thyroid having no ATP production so you feel lazy. That's what you're supposed to feel when you don't have literal, we talk about cash as liquid. What about the liquid of our body that we can just spend? You're in a deficit because of the way you live your life. So if we want energy, let's look at it on a physical reality level, and we want ATP. And to get ATP, we want a healthy thyroid. And to get a healthy thyroid, you don't starve yourself. So again, it goes back to can you meal prep? So rather than getting hungry, raising cortisol, hurting your prefrontal, hurting your ability to choose your own thoughts, amygdala is activated, it moves you into reaction, it moves you into a set. I've always done things this way, whether it's sabotaging or not, that's just the easier way for me, feels easier. You don't get into that state. And you stay on an even, healthy baseline where you don't get hungry, stress, work hard, eat heavy, dump again. We want a rhythmic, healthy flow of energy. So these are the type of things that support character development because you're spending time to build the liquid, the cash that you'll spend. Again, there's don't let me butcher this. Vastromedial prefrontal cortex. One of our aspects of our prefrontal is behavioral override ability, meaning you see something. Oh, should I go to the bar and drink Should I eat unhealthy food? Should I masturbate? Should I do these things that internally I don't feel is really good for me, but it feels good to do it? And that part of our body that sees that and can cognitively say, no, let's pivot, is coming from that part of the prefrontal. And so again, if that part of the prefrontal is more easily turned off from lack of fuel, back to character development and metabolic efficiency, which a lot of people are not seeing as a uniform science. Simply put, optimizing your body's energy use and how it's being sourced in a day, how it's being spent in a day. This is huge for character development. And then character development goes back into, I am having a bad thought. And again, if your cortisol is high, and the amygdala is activated, and what does the amygdala do? It makes exaggerated assumptions, because again, you got to think of it. Car is running at you fast. Should you sit and think, oh, I wonder at that speed, at that distance, how much time I have? You're not going to think that. Amygdala gets activated, fight or flight kicks in, and you get the fuck out of the way. So again, when a bad thought is happening and you have cortisol, the exaggerated aspect of thinking is thinking the problem might be bigger than it is, thinking you're weaker and more fragile than you are. You're making exaggerated realizations, and that's dangerous. So the metabolic efficiency, all this stuff comes into character development because it allows you to have more equilibrium, and it has you allowed more cash on how do I spend my energy on actions. Another big thing to think about is when you have high cortisol and high nervous system arousal, meaning you're kind of spiked, you're kind of alert, you're kind of, aroused, it's called, is if you have that cortisol, rather than the body saying, oh, I feel like I have a lot of good energy flowing, I'm really alert, what should I do with it? If cortisol is there, your body is like, oh, this is intense, I want to find relief. And that's when you move into vices. And again, vices, as we understand in Omram's philosophy, Master Omram, Mikhail Ivanov, the man behind a lot of my philosophy, he talks about they're like tumors that swell in the astral body, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger. Eventually they're bigger than you are, and they're just dominating you. They just have such a presence. Your vices and your lower appetites, they have such a presence that it just dominates your conceptual mind. Like, I need to do this, I need to do this. It's just gonna smack your inner narrative with such a torrent of narrative and sensation that you're like, I need this, I want this so bad, I gotta get it, I gotta masturbate, I gotta go try to get a chick, I gotta eat that food that I know is not good for me, all that sort of stuff. So it's a big thing. And long story short, eventually we start choosing different character qualities. Those character qualities, again, if we can go over 78 days, we talk about 3 days to build mirror neurons and to feel less awkward doing something. We talk about 21 days to really build neural networks. What myelinates the fastest is often subconsciously chosen. So we're getting a good groove cut so we can subconsciously choose something, make it feel more natural. Around 78 days, the body, which has trained often years to support a vice, years to support an inferior way of being, the body is like, it's more efficient for me to be a fuck up and, to always choose this stupid way of doing shit. It doesn't say those words. It says that habit is easier for me. Doesn't matter if it inflames my body. Doesn't matter if I'm drained from doing something. It's easier. Feels easier. Around 78 days is the breakthrough period that a lot of people talk about with the science. Is if you can get over that period, the body starts to really have more of a downhill slope action, where it's, instead of pushing the boulder uphill, okay, now you're rolling, so you got to get over that. But yeah, these are the ways to build the healthy aura through just metabolic efficiency, at least looking at it like that, and spending harder fought battles to set yourself up for success. So instead of having to act and override bad behavior. You're building energy, lucidity, enthusiasm, vitality, taking things off of your will. So your will is like, let's go. And it can move into the development of character. And, people are like, oh, I heard that having purple in my aura will bring this. And, I'm going to go on a limb, for all the logical 3D people that don't believe in this stuff, I'm going to disregard that. We talk about, yellow brings this. We talk about blue brings this. Having a lot of blue makes you hyper aware of truth. Having a lot of yellow makes you super wise or something like that, which, it's all valid. And it's cool to think about, oh, I want that color because I want to have a lot of awareness of truth and wisdom. But then it goes back to, rather than seeking the color out, can you choose behaviors that would build that in your aura, and then the associated qualities of that color? Again, it's like we're living in a cosmic universe. We're living in a non-material universe as well as a material, and we're only looking at material. We need to stop doing that. We need to look at things on an energetic level. It's gonna give you a huge advantage. And so yeah, it's like, oh, I want that color because that color brings wealth. Maybe red, I think, is that root chakra stuff. But I'm not an expert in this. I don't even know what any of the colors really bring. But it's like, let's say you want a particular color because of what it brings, rather than fucking meditating on the color and then having character qualities and actions actively sabotage that 20-minute meditation, and that the actions are lasting all day. You got to reverse engineer this. You got to start from the other side and say, I'm going to represent qualities associated with that color, and then the stuff that I want from that color is much more supported, because you're actively back to the neural network building and the building of habit, all that stuff. It's actually supported through your action. And then again, back to the law of emanation, basically, is what we're talking about. And backlash, we're getting all this good energy put out. I could run to the other side of the world. It's still coming my way. It's still going to catch up to me. So it doesn't matter. Put out good energy, it's coming back. And I don't want to hear anyone complain about that and act like I put out all this good energy. Well, track yourself. You're probably putting out a lot of negative energy as well, especially if you're complaining that good energy isn't visible enough in the manifestations in your life. So some thoughts for you guys. Thanks for watching. Peace.